Can you believe it? It is episode number 8 already. That's like 2 months. Come on now. Episode number 8 of the Congruity Corner live stream on the Congruity Corner, or not Congruity Corner, on the Congruity 360 YouTube channel. We are live every Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern. We also post some of the clips on LinkedIn. If you guys want to check out the Congruity 360 LinkedIn page, we put shorts on this YouTube channel, and we upload content on the Instagram page. So if you guys are interested, go check out any of those locations. I'll grab a link to the Instagram page right meow. So if you guys want to go over there and support, you can submit questions. You can ask to provide topics for the show. It's probably the best way to get directly involved with the show. The Congruity Corner has its own dedicated Instagram page, so go check that one out, you guys. My name is Dan. Online, I go by Dancy Bearded. According to the government, even though they proclaimed that I was dead for 3 months, true story, it's Daniel Command. But on here, just Dancy Bearded for you guys. I am the co-host of this show, and I'm the guy that's looking from the outside and has a peripheral view of technology, but I am curious. I love asking questions. I love learning with every show, and my co-host is the one that's on the ground floor, that's in the weeds, and today we're really going to draw on his experience, his involvement with Congruity, and really kind of dive into the details. If you guys could help me welcome my co-host today, Mr. Nick Phelps. Nick, how you doing, dude?
I'm killing it. Rocking and rolling, saving the world one data center at a time like I do. It's been a good week.
We need those. We need those data centers saved.
Not all heroes wear capes. It's
true.
Fine. We've talked about it before. Some of us do, there's a list, but it's fine.
Could we say we have a cape in the front?
I guess we kind of do.
We kind of do. If it's,
you're kind of right.
Wind at the sail of a cape, we get that with the beard. A little bit of protection, we get that with the beard. We might have capes in the front. I feel like there's a t-shirt in there somewhere.
There's something and it's on the back of the shirt. It says, "My cape is on the front," or "I wear my cape on the front." I was
going there. Yeah, I wear my cape on the front, and it's on the back of the shirt because that's where they would be looking. Wow. Okay.
I think we might have something there. Anyone out there printing shirts?
Yep. I know a lady. My wife. Very nice. Very nice. But today, guys, we are going to take an inner look into Nick, Congruity, and just everything that's kind of going on. And the fun part about it is the majority of the show today is dedicated to your questions. We have viewer submitted questions, whether it's been through our Instagram page, whether it's been through email. We've even gotten emails, which is super, super cool, from members within Congruity. Shout out to the Belfast branch. They seem to be the most invested in the show, at least as far as feedback goes. And then also, Nick, throughout the week, has been taking notes because he's had calls with different people that are probably watching the show right now, and they've asked him questions, and we're going to tackle all those things, all with a rounded look also at AI. Why? Because it's the topic right now. It's changing the world. It's one of those absolute paradigm shifts where the world will no longer be the same. Similar to the internet, to email, to the iPhone, we are seeing that entire landscape of civilization change. And not to be dramatic, but it's just true. And so we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about all those things. And if you guys do have questions, you can put them in. We'll try to fit them in as good as we can. It's not a solely dedicated Q&A episode, which we'll do soon. Don't worry. But we love to get you guys involved. And as always, drop a little comment with what you're up to right now. Are you listening podcast style and you can sneak in a quick comment? Are you on break? Are you not working today? Are you working for Congruity and you're like, this is the best job ever. I get to listen to an entertaining live stream while I'm working for the best company? That's pretty dang cool. Pretty dang cool. And Nick, hard hitter, I got a question that I've not posed to you yet, which is going to come next. I want to let that linger for a second. But a hard-hitting one that came in and was asked multiple times. Absolutely multiple times. And Nick, got a quick shout out here to Jim Harris. Hey, buddy.
What's up, Jim?
Good to see you, Jim.
Heck yeah. Thanks for joining.
And the hard-hitting question, Nick, would be, and again, this has been several times because yours is different. What mic are you using, right? They see this and they're like, we know this cable here. We understand XLR. We get it, Dan. We get it. Flex on, okay? You got the YouTube plaque. Okay, we get it, buddy. All right. But Nick, yours looks naked. What's going on over there?
So this is actually like it's funny you asked that. I've personally been asked this question.
Have you?
Watch. Yeah. It's one of the, people are like, I watched your podcast and I have a question. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And they're like, what mic is that? And I'm like, oh.
That's so funny.
But it's a Shure MV7, and it's the exact same body as the ever popular what is it, the SM7B, right? Yes,
very popular.
Yeah, that's like the de facto podcast, microphone. It's the one
Joe
you see
Rogan
Joe Rogan using. Yeah, he made it famous. Exactly right. And so this is the same body as that mic, except it's got a couple of tricks up its sleeve. To use a regular SM7B or a regular condenser mic in general that you see people using like that in podcasts, you need a preamp, right? You need a board, like a mixer, an input board, an input box, a digital, a DUA, or a DAO, whatever it is. And so you need something that's going to power the mic and bring the signal into your computer. So if I want to be mobile, like I am right now with just a laptop and a mic and a camera, this mic makes that possible, because you can see here it does have XLR. You can use it with XLR if you want to, just with the regular Rodecaster or regular board like you're going to use, like Dan has over there on the left. Thanks, Dan. But what's really cool and unique about this one is you don't need the XLR cable at all. You can plug it in with a USB cable and power the whole mic and control its output volume, all with a USB cable straight into your laptop. No preamp, no mixer, no audio interface whatsoever. It's powered, and its audio signal all works off of that one USB cable.
Which is insane how accessible that is and easy it is to use to get professional level audio.
So cool. I mean, it's like, and I use this same mic hanging from a boom in my upstairs studio, and it's powered with XLR. It's hooked up to the Rodecaster, the full thing, and I can't tell the difference between the two when I switch back and forth. That's why I ended up sticking with this, is because that way when I go between studios or I go between other things, it's like the remote session doesn't need to know any different. It all sounds the same. It looks the same. Life is good. But yeah, everyone that asked me, they're like, I had one person being like, how come you got that placeholder, like the prop microphone sitting there in front of you? And I'm like, what do you mean? I have one microphone. And they're like, well, yeah, but you're using like an AirPod or something, right? Or like an earbud, because there's no cable plugged into your mic. Those things aren't wireless. And I was like, oh, you can't even see the little USB cable. Like, it's so small. Like you can't even see that it's there unless you like pick it up. I kind of hide it behind the stand. It just disappears.
That's hilarious.
So funny. One of the most popular questions about the podcast so far has been, how come your mic isn't plugged in?
Wow. Okay. That is so funny.
It is.
A staged mic because you have earbud and they're like, you want to make it look professional. I bet people do that. I bet that's an actual thing.
I started thinking about it and I'm like, oh man, that's totally a thing. Like, I think like you've seen like the multi-mic setup, and then you notice if someone's got a mic and they also have a cable hanging down from their ear, it's like, wait a minute. Is that mic even what you're using right now? Or are you using your AirPods?
Right.
Yeah, so funny. So the naked XLR port has been causing quite the ruckus.
All right, so one more time, because I'm sure it caught the attention of people. What is the name of that mic if somebody wants to go get it? Because it truly is plug and play.
It's so cool. It's the Shure MV7.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
And then if you guys are like, Dan's setup looks real cool. Mine is actually not very expensive. It's a Rode Pod mic. And then it goes into the Rode Podcaster over here that can control like the audio. And you can actually, the main reason I have is you can connect 4 mics to it and live stream directly from this setup right here. And so that's what's going in over here. Then I have a camera switcher over here that allows me to go to these different cameras. I also have another camera that I'm not using right now. So I got a little bit going on, but I think what blows most people's minds about this setup, you can see right here, I run every single thing I do off of my career, including editing videos, every live stream, every post off of a laptop. just a singular laptop.
Isn't that crazy that you can do that now? It's like someone was asking what I run for a lab for doing like a lot of the programming and testing that we do. It's all I do it all on my laptop, if not in the cloud. But like anything that's not in the cloud, I don't even have a physical lab anymore. It's all on my laptop. Like
Yeah.
I think my
Yep.
laptop now probably has like 4 times the power than my physical lab did like just 5 years ago.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And
Oh, it's
I,
nuts.
I can't even imagine the new laptops that have AI built in and are doing all these systems within it. Like that's crazy to think about what it's unloading.
I mean, it's nuts to think that you used to have like a desktop computer, back
Days of
in.
the past.
I mean, it
OD.
was, yeah, it really was. I mean, you look at like, and he's running a similar setup to me. We're both on Macs, and these things have 40 core processors. They got 40 core GPUs, and
What?
they're like, we used to have 2 core processors as like your whole computer. Now you got what? I think this thing's got 18 GPU cores and 18 CPU cores and 40 GPU cores. I mean, they're absolutely insane, the power that they cram into these things.
That's so cool. It's so cool. And they were a room at one point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy.
So crazy. All right. So before we move on to other viewer submitted questions, I
Hmm.
had a question for you because essentially I get to do this each week with one of my best friends, and we get to talk about things we're passionate about. And I get caught up on all the stuff I don't get to hear about, what Nick is doing with Congruity throughout the week. And that's the main idea of the show, is to share that with you guys. But one thing that I want, and I have not asked Nick this yet at all, because anybody that becomes a guest on this show will understand. I'm a firm believer in the first way you explain or answer something is always the best way.
Mhm.
Even if you don't think so, even if you're someone that's like, I want to rehearse, no. We want transparency. We want just the real. I really believe people are longing and they need that connection. And so something I was curious on, Nick, you have worked for a cornucopia of companies throughout your long career, all the way back to working for Cisco as a young teenager and then throughout. So you've
Mhm.
come on and you've felt the new environment. You felt the new styles. You've had all these different experiences, from being a business owner yourself to an employee to management to everywhere. What has been your genuine like feel with coming on with Congruity 360? How have the people been? How has the culture been? Because for me, I don't know that world. And I feel like I'm spoiled because stepping into this technology world and just to be frank, bigger companies type world, it's nothing that I've ever really done. It is nothing like I ever expected. I
Hmm.
expected everything to be buttoned up tight, and I need to talk very properly and live within their confines. And I have no creative freedom and no ability to do what I believe I do best truly in the world. And it couldn't be more the opposite. There's
Mm.
trust, there's understanding, there's help, there's encouragement, all the stuff that I crave and need as a human, which I can vulnerably answer and be honest about. They have provided. You are much more in the weeds, like I said earlier, in the thick of it. What has the culture been like to you with Congruity?
So it's vastly different than most. I can say that right out of the gate. And what you're experiencing here definitely isn't typical in the enterprise space or companies
Okay.
that of this size. I don't think anyway.
I
Not
don't
in the
think so
space
either.
that
Yeah.
I've seen. No, it's not typical, and I'll point out a couple reasons why. I'm working closer and closer with Congruity every week, right? I work as a partner. I work as a development partner. I work as an advisor. And in some cases, I work as a pretty well integrated member of certain teams, right? So I kind of see it from a multitude of angles, both externally as a business partner, but then also internally trying to move things forward that I'm working on with internal teams, right? And I've experienced, a lot less red tape, a lot less, lots of things that are markedly different. They really do stand behind the adage of innovate first, right? I mean,
Mm,
it's a big part of the culture. And I think when you're focused on when you're focused on what's next and you're focused on innovation and you actually have a dedicated research and development team, I think certain things kind of come naturally from a culture perspective along with that. And I think a lot of it is not looking at the rear view mirror too much and not staring to death the things that are right happening now in front of you. It really is that forward thinking kind of mentality. And when you have that as a cornerstone of your culture and your development roadmap is fed by your customers, like you and I have talked about, right?
Yeah.
It's, if you let just like we're doing today, we're letting everyone who watches the stream and submits questions drive what we're talking about today. That's how the narrative works. I think, especially at Congruity, where it's almost completely driven by customer engagement, if as far as a development roadmap is concerned. So, you know what it is? I think I've just kind of noticed this as a whole, and this is where I think Congruity isn't exactly unique. I think it's sort of a cultural shift that happens as a byproduct of being a certain type of company, being forward thinking, being customer driven development, being focused on what's next. I don't think you have time to focus on drama and process and creating process for the sake of process and having meetings for the sake of meetings, right? I think people are too busy. They're too excited working on what they're working on. And, I think it just goes back to, just like idle hands at the devil's playground, people say, I think that's true with corporate policy and having middle management and bloat. I really do. I think when you get bored, you invent ways to make yourself useful.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I just think in innovation rich type cultures, I just don't think people have time for that. So I think what you've been noticing is probably a byproduct of that, right? I think I think a lot of other places, a lot of other companies that I've worked with anyway, that are in this space around this size, which has been quite a few. I think they do have maybe a little too much time on their hands in certain cases, right? Because it is tough to move things forward. It's tough to get new ideas approved. It's there's months, if not years, involved in getting new concepts to bubble up. I mean, you saw how fast things move here, introducing this concept of this stream. I mean, you were on the phone with the CEO, I think, on your second call, talking about this concept. So, I mean, it's not to say that Congruity is by any means a small group, but look how efficient that was. That's where the decision lived. And that's how quick you got access to that level of management in the company to be able to have a discussion. I mean, that part's not typical.
No. And to prove that, this is the top of the leadership team right here. Brian, as you said, we were on a call the second day that this was even brought up. Unbelievable, like humbling experience. And then look at next, you have Chris Ryan, the Chief Development Officer. He's already been on the show. We were episode 7 in, and we had the Chief Development Officer of Congruity 360. That does not fall light on me. That's utterly insane for someone of his accomplishment, his resume, his stature within the company to do this. I will say, Brian and Joe, you're on my list of the wish list. And then moving down here, I don't know Mark, but I've seen a lot of content from Mark. I study Congruity as much as I can, and he's out there a lot. I feel like Mark will have to be a guest in the near future. He's very good on camera. You can just feel the passion when he talks. I have my sights on those 3 gentlemen right away, Brian, Joe, and Mark. That would be really cool.
That'd be awesome. No, that'd be great. And I think, I think all of them are excited to come join us. I think that's been a really neat part too. There's been zero talking anybody into doing this show with us at all. Everyone's been really excited to do it. It's new, it's fun. It's something that, it's doing something that they've done before, but in a way that hasn't exactly been done before.
Yes, exactly. So yes, that's a open invite, and truly and I mean this, anybody that is within Congruity or involved in Congruity would love to be there. And the women, heck yes. I just don't know any of them, but it is an unbelievable invite to any of the women that want to get involved. That would be a really fun perspective to hear as well. And yes, Aaron.
Yeah, Mari would be fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know her, but that would be
absolutely. I've worked with Mari on a few things already. I've had the opportunity to work with her on a cool exercise. We were going through some pricing models on some things, and it's an area where I don't exactly excel. And she's really good at taking the business side of things, the sales, the marketing, and understanding the tech side well enough to really pull them all together and understand like the cost model and the legal and the marketing and the sales
Wow.
implications of the way you license enterprise products. So, I mean, I learned a number of things on the call that I had with Mari. So I'm sure we'd all learn something having her on as a guest.
Okay. Yeah. And Aaron says Mari's brain is so impressive. Yes.
Yeah, I can second that for sure. Yeah.
Let's make
very
that
talented.
happen. Let's make
Let's
that
do it.
happen. That would be a fantastic show. So,
That
okay.
sounds great.
Cool. Well, thank you, Nick, for sharing that. I always think it's fun to be able to be in the shoes of someone else and hear about their journey. And I know a lot of people in the chat enjoy that as well. So open invite to anybody at Congruity. We can get dates scheduled. It doesn't need to be next week, 2 weeks. We can schedule a month, 2 months out from now and get you guys on the books. And that would be really, really cool. Yep. Really, really cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. You ready for some questions, Mr. Nick?
I'm ready. You know, I'm ready. Who knows what's going to come out? I know some of them, and I've had a chance to think about them. But you're gonna. I mean, we got a smart audience here, so might get some ums and uhs out of it. Let's see.
And again, guys, if you would like to submit questions to be on this show, the Instagram page for the Congruity Corner is probably your best bet. But also, if you have contact with Nick, you can get them to him. He'll get them over to me. We would love to be able to have you guys build what we're looking for here. So one question that was submitted is there's partners involved with Congruity, and there's things that Congruity does not do. And so someone just simply asked, what do you guys partner with for stuff or who do you guys partner with for stuff you don't do?
I mean, it's a large and evolving list of provider and service provider service partners, and you know, when you're in this space, you naturally you have to partner with people because not you can't do everything in one of these. You know, it'd be really tough in the tech space, especially in the enterprise space. There are people who kind of do a bit of literally everything in this space, from network and security to infrastructure to the software development side of things, storage, compute, cloud. You name it. And, you know, you have places that definitely do, jack of all trades kind of a model. And they're large global groups, and there's a bunch of them out there. You know, you look at like the WWTs of the world, and, you know, there's large groups that literally do a really good job at doing just about everything that's out there. And then what the market is mostly made up of, though, is, you know, value added resellers, VARs, people, you know, you'd say, or, you look at, you know, in the service provider space, you know, you typically have slightly more boutique focuses, right? So you typically are going to have people who specialize in cloud or specialize in security or specialize in infrastructure, hardware, and storage, right? And so that being the case, we have a number of partners up here in the Northeast. You know, what's interesting is a partner of Congruity, a large partner, Blue Mantis, is a place that back when they were called Green Pages, I used to work with them. I was their principal network and solution architect for a while. I was their practice manager for network and security for quite a while back in 2012 to 2014, 15 kind of time frame.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, it's a small world, right, in this space. They're a huge partner of Congruity 360. They do a ton of stuff together between events that they do together. But where, you know, Blue Mantis comes in a lot when, you know, and a lot of the people that are watching here are Blue Mantis customers as well as Congruity customers. They have, lots of shared customers in common with us. They are huge in the space for network security, cloud infrastructure, custom application development, kind of you name it. They have a pretty large stack of stuff that they focus on, but they're a huge partner of ours up here in the Northeast. And like I say, there's kind of depends on what area, I suppose, people are asking about specifically, whether it's, networking or cloud or any of those things, who it is. But, it's important to, I guess, realize how small of a world it is, because there isn't a company that I've partnered with in the past, I'd say 10 years, that I didn't work with 10 years ago that I'm not working with today, unless they're out of business, right?
Wow.
It's just one of those it's one of those things. It's that kind of a market where relationships you make typically will survive the four walls of a logo, right? And the people that you work with are typically going to be moving over to somewhere that's similar in the space that they're in, so they're likely to be a partner as well. So it's a tight knit group of people, and it's a smaller world than you'd think.
Okay, so is it kind of just a loose or maybe even specific calculation of, I'm sure we could do that, I'm sure we could get into that, but there are people that specialize in it, that do it faster, that do it better, and it's a cost analysis of it's better for us to go with those experts and not invest in doing it? Or is it, I'm trying to,
you know what it is,
get in the
it's
mind
focus.
of theirs.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's focus more than anything, I would say. And I think it takes people to maintain a large focus across multiple disciplines, right?
Okay.
And I think, it really comes down to how large of a team you have behind the focus areas that you have. And I think being a specialist, there's absolutely still the need for people who focus in one area with a very large team, right? So it kind of goes in a multitude of directions. There's companies out there that are 100, 200 person companies that have a very laser sharp unified focus on one thing. And then there could be the same size group that literally is a jack of all trades that has one or two people that focus on just about everything that's out there. And maybe they just do it for a smaller subset of customers. So it is a trade-off, right? Like the more you do with the less amount of people you have, the smaller of a customer base you can really maintain doing that. Whereas if that same size of team focused on one thing, you can probably impact a larger group of customers, right? So it depends on what side you want to grow. Do you want to grow your customer base with the disciplines that you have that you focus on? Do you want to grow discipline wise, but maybe maintain the same size customer base? Or do you do both and you grow your customer base while growing your disciplines by multiplying the size of your team, right?
Interesting.
It's kind of there. So there is a balance there for sure, but I think it's definitely focused based and, the ability to do what you do well across the customer base size that you have.
Interesting. I see a lot of parallels with my side of the world with YouTube, where the concept is you have a bunch of interests. Do you make a channel talking about all those interests, or which would give you a broader audience, but probably a harder chance to grow? Or do you focus on a singular niche, which is a smaller audience, but you have more of a chance to rise within that niche? And people struggle with that, right? There's some people that just talk about anything. I'm pretty much strictly beards, and I've been able to rank in the beard world because of that. If I expanded into men's grooming in general, or fitness in general, or men's style in general, like I potentially have a bigger audience, but it also might dilute my beard audience. And so there is that like challenge of deciding where to go. Yeah, I hear you.
It is. And I think it's literally the same everywhere. If you're running car dealerships and you have, different logos that you're selling from car manufacturers, like, do you focus on one manufacturer and become a sponsored, dealership that's kind of, that's incentivized by one manufacturer?
Right.
Do you go the model where you carry everything and work with everybody? Right. And it's like, the size of your sales force matters, the size of your audience matters, and the loyalty of those customers get impacted by, all of those things. So it's a delicate balancing act.
Yeah, very cool. And they do have a partner page on the website, you guys. If anybody's interested in checking that out, I'll link it in the chat right now. You can learn more about their partners or becoming a partner with Congruity. All right, next question. Definitely not submitted by me. 100% not something that I did not know and hear. It's absolutely not me wondering because I didn't understand what this meant over multiple episodes. Not me, just crystal clear. But I've heard you say net gap a few times when you're talking with the people that know these things, when you're talking to OD, when you're talking to Chris. You've said net gap. What is net gap? What does it mean? And is it a product? Is it a service? I know Congruity does it, right? But help me help those out there. What is NetGap?
Okay, Dan, to answer your question,
viewer submitted.
Viewer submitted dash Dan C. Yeah, it must be a different
behind the
Dan.
Scenes.
Must be a different Dan C, I guess.
Many.
Yeah. There's so NetGap. NetGap is a concept. It's an architecture. It's also, in the case of Congruity 360, a service offering or a product, depending on how you want to say it. And it's so what it is the concept of an action. So let's use another term real quick, and we'll relate the two.
Okay.
Most people have heard the term air gap, right? An air gap is something in a high security environment or something in any kind of an environment. If something is disconnected physically from a network, if it's disconnected physically from another environment, that's considered an air gap between the environment, because there's no cable that exists between the two, right? It's literally gapped with air, right?
Okay.
That's the separator between two logical boundaries. And of course, that's the most secure, immutable form of a boundary you can get, is no connectivity at all, right?
Okay.
Because you can't exploit something that's not there. So if there's nothing connecting it, you can't get to it. It's just like if your house didn't have a front door, no one would have the ability to pick your lock, right?
So it's a strategy almost.
Right. So air gap is a term that's used to say like if something is air gapped from a network, people don't have any access to it by any means whatsoever. And then the next level of heightened security for access between things is going to be a net gap, which means that you're separated by network controls, that you're separated by a network. And sometimes, in the case of Congruity 360's offering, you're actually separated by different physical networks, thereby creating a net gap. And what they mean by it, the way that they leverage that term and the way that they leverage that architecture or that concept, is customers that have highly toxic or sensitive data that they need to keep for one reason or another, but no one should really ever be accessing it, right? Very rare circumstances would anybody really need to access it, and it would be like by a justified needs basis only that they'd be able to. And if you have that type of data, and because of maybe compliance reasons or certain policies that exist, maybe you need to maintain that stuff and you have to keep it for a certain period of time. But the last thing you'd want is for it to fall into the wrong hands. What you can do is place that in the capable hands of Congruity 360's NetGap solution. And what that enables you to do is keep that data in a very secure network access controlled environment that you do not have access to, your environment has no access to, and we don't have access to, unless justified and controls are put into place to allow the access, and access happens in a monitored fashion. And you get your data out, the connection goes away again, you're again gapped by the network policy that doesn't allow from point A to point B to happen. And your data is secure, but it still exists. You still technically have like cold storage, kind of archived access to it, right? And that's so if you really look at it, they've created a product around that concept of NetGap, and there's people who could not maintain the security posture they maintain internally without the NetGap solution provided by C360, because sometimes there's a conflict. Once in a while there's kind of like conflicting directives where you might say, from the network security lens, nothing of this type can be on the network whatsoever, ever, right? No one can access this certain type of data. And then you have a policy from somewhere, another business unit in the enterprise that says you can't operate unless you maintain this certain data for a certain amount of time. So now you have conflicting policy, right? You have some governing body saying that you have to keep something, and then you have your network and security and compliance team saying for no reason ever can you keep this type of data in our environment.
Yeah.
Right. So then all of a sudden you have no choice but to squeeze that stuff over somewhere. And that's where this type of NetGap solution is really born, is that type of situation.
Okay. Without, of course, doing specifics, and you might not be able to at all, is there a type of data that is common for that you could share?
Oh yeah. Okay. It could be PII data that you're required to keep, so like personal identification information of some sort, right?
Okay.
It could be healthcare type information that has
healthcare.
The PII data. It could be financial records that have PII data inside of it, right? It could be any number of types of data that contain sensitive info, or the data itself could just be sensitive in nature for some other reason, right? But I would say that the biggest consumers of that space are are financial and healthcare
Gotcha.
spaces.
So it's a lot of the times like we've talked about the new ransom attacks where they go in and they don't have to encrypt it and keep it from you. They just have to let you know, hey, you have your data. We have it now too. We'll release it and you're in trouble. That kind of data, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly it. And it
Okay.
can get, and every industry generates that type of data, right? And so those are just the most popular ones for us. But if you look now at and there's a lot of stuff out there about how real some of these threats are, like what the difference between architecture and real world, survival tactics are. But the attack you're speaking of, the HNDL, right? Which is we were just talking about it before, the harvest now, decrypt later attacks, right? And actually, it was funny because it's the biggest thing in news. If I look across my screener that I look at for stories in the cybersecurity space, the first 3 stories today are about harvest now, decrypt later style attacks.
Oh,
I literally flipped tabs and it's the second thing on, and this is exactly what we're talking about, which is the ability to spend time not in someone's environment decrypting things. And you might have someone that comes back after a key gets hacked a year later, and it could be year-old, 2-year-old data, but it doesn't matter, right?
it's still there.
It's still there. It's still just as sensitive 2 years from now
Right.
as it is today, and they can take it out of your environment and worry about it later.
Right. Like my soch is my soch. It doesn't matter that it was old, it's
Yeah.
still data. Okay.
Until the government, accidentally calls you dead and has to like issue you a new social or something. That's, you're stuck with it.
Yeah. Yep. And then, so this legitimately, I didn't type this in. This was pre-programmed, literally next in line here, viewer submitted question, and it may have just been answered, but I want to pose it because it was submitted. How do you know data is dangerous when you do an assessment? We had mentioned doing an assessment before and then finding dangerous data. How does that work? Is it a program? Is it like what are they looking for?
So there's a number of methods that are employed to do it. Machine learning is a huge aspect of it, to be able to run through, and of course AI at this point. It was machine learning back in the day, and now it's less pattern matching and more logic matching than it is an intent matching than it is anything else. But if you look at what's historically been done and what Congruity's gotten really, really, really good at is developing internal processes to apply machine learning logic to look past false positives. And it's just like we talked about before, how like the brain's ability to forget is more important than its ability to remember. We say that all the time. Yeah, and it's the ability to not find something is more important than your ability to find something when you're doing these types of assessments. And what I mean by that is it's more important to overrule, to not throw out a false positive than it is to throw out false positives that you have to go through and weed through, and all of a sudden you just have noise, right?
Oh, okay.
So you have to be really good at, when you identify something, having it actually be a legitimate finding.
Okay.
And the machine learning side of things is what really helps that process. So being able to tell the difference between, let's just say, for example, imagine you're working at a bank and you're looking for sensitive information, scanning through the file structures of a bank's unstructured data, file shares, all the things that people use to do their jobs. And you're looking through every PDF and every Word document and everything that's out there, and you're looking for certain types of information like socials, birth dates, identity related PII data, right? And or maybe you're even looking for clear text like credit card numbers, because that's a type of PII data. What you wouldn't want to do, banks obviously do lots of testing, right? They have they have fake card numbers and debit card numbers and credit card numbers that are all over, lots of documentation that they use for synthetic transactions, for doing tests. They have example users, right? Being able to tell the difference between a test user and a test card versus a real card, and not throwing an alert for every piece of information that looks like PII data, but it's there intentionally and it's sanitized and it's actually generic and not dangerous at all. It's just one example of ways that you need to be able to rule out false positives. You have to be able to tell the difference. And so that's one piece of it. But the way that we do it is, Congruity has gotten really good at internal processes that they use with their insights platform and classify to be able to go through and find and tag and positively identify areas that store this type of information and exactly where it lives and who accesses it, how old it is and how sensitive it is, and applying a score to all of those things is really the secret sauce, right? I mean, that's the name of the game.
So would you say that the AI side of it, it's a better combination with the machine learning and with AI rather than just AI itself when we talk about AI replacing everything? Or do you think that this is something that AI has completely taken over?
No, and I think this is something that actually blurs the line between AI and machine learning quite a bit. Like I think really good logic sometimes gets called artificial intelligence because it feels like it is. And I think that, yes, AI is definitely improving the way that this world works. And I think that the logic is getting better because of AI. I think but you have to think that one of the things you got to keep in mind, and it's a big difference when you're looking at stuff like this, is there's deterministic logic and non-deterministic logic, right? And artificial intelligence, at its core is non-deterministic. You can ask it the same question 5 times and you might get 5 different answers. They might all be right, but it's going to answer it in a different way. It's going to use natural language.
Okay.
And especially if you're doing it across sessions, right? If you open a fresh session with, name your frontier language model of choice, you ask it a question, close it, get a new session, open it again, same model, same interface, different window, different session, ask it the same question. You're going to get a drastically different response.
Minutes later.
Yeah. And again, it could contain the same valid information. It's just, it's going to be different. Okay. Now, the other side of logic, you look at machine learning, deep learning, those sorts of things, not so much deep learning, but definitely machine learning. In most cases, they are deterministic logic engines, right? And what I mean by that is the logic that gets applied is the same every single time that it happens.
Makes sense.
So you have deterministic logic, you have non-deterministic logic. And I would argue that in the case of trying to classify things into PII data, find types of data, classify and tag them, deterministic models or deterministic algorithms and logic is much more effective because it's what you need for repeatable results, and being able to apply further logic down the road. You kind of have to have the same thing. So it's it's improving it. Yes. Is it replacing it? No. And is it really going to be the cornerstone of that type of activity? I don't think so.
That's great. That's going to make a lot of people happy to hear. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then next one, this one is clearly not submitted by me because I don't know this stuff. And we had a viewer submit that they have been hearing us mention Viking, of course, right? With the beards, it stands out and is memorable. And they just simply, they submitted this word for word. How does Viking see network traffic if you're not running agents? And if you could help me, start by what is running agents? I don't know what that means.
Oh, this is one of those questions where it sounds super complicated, but the person asking it was not trying to ask a super complicated question, I don't think. And so it sounds worse than it is.
Okay.
An agent is simply a piece of software that runs on another system that does a certain function, right?
Oh, okay.
Like something like you run like an email client and it's got something that sits there on your computer and checks for email. That's an agent. Your email client is acting like an agent, and it's sitting there doing a function. It's checking and it's pulling things down and doing stuff for you.
Now, would that be an extension? Would that, like a Chrome extension, would that be an agent?
Kinda. You can think of it. An extension is kind of like if your Chrome browser was remote in the cloud somewhere and the extension was running locally, then that extension would be an agent of that system. So really, there's a lot of systems out there that run agents for various reasons. Like you can look at if you have a centralized cloud system that monitors system resources, let's just say, and you have a piece of software that sits there on that system, on your laptop, for example, and it monitors how much CPU and disk space and memory you're using and reports those metrics back to something.
Okay.
That would be an agent.
Gotcha.
And so when people think about network security, they automatically, their brain goes to agents, because most network security solutions that are distributed systems that watch system traffic, a lot of them utilize agents to do that. And in what they do, quite simply, if you look at the typical network observability kind of model, is that you'd have a centralized system that lives somewhere, and every system that's in your environment has a little piece of code running on it, and it reports back every bit of network traffic that comes in and out of that system up to the centralized, platform. That would be a platform agent type relationship. And that's very typical in the network security space, because in most cases, that's the best way to see workload traffic, is to actually have software, have an agent running on those workloads. It's the best way to do it, and for a lot of reasons. And so most systems that do that are also doing what they call enforcement. So they're not just doing monitoring. They'll monitor, and if they see something that they don't like, they can actually enforce an action, like block. They can block traffic with that agent. So they can see stuff, they can monitor it. If they don't like it, they can stop it. And so really, if you're looking at an enforcement engine that's distributed like that, it's the only way to do it is with agents. So when people see Viking and they see that we're doing data in transit, right? We say that we can watch who talks to who and how. They say, well, how you do that with no agents, right? How do you see who talks to who if you don't have the traffic captured at the source?
Right.
Well, all of this traffic goes over a network, right? And the network at one point or another sees all the traffic. Networks have a way of exporting metadata about traffic they see, and it's called net flow. In some cases, it's flow data, right? Some cases, the protocol can vary. It can be something called net flow. It can be something else called IP fix or S flow. There's a number of names
about net flow.
Yeah, perfect. So there's like a number of things that you can, that they can export you and tell you about traffic, and that's what Viking uses in order to see its insight into how traffic and who talks to what and how. That's how we build our communication profiles. And so we use NetFlow instead of agents to be able to see who talks to who and how across the network. And since we don't do enforcement, right, we're not the policy engine. We're not saying that this traffic is allowed and this traffic is blocked. We're simply observing, right, for the cases of detection. And so since we don't have the need to be in path to block traffic, we don't have the need to have an agent, which saves people the hassle of needing to install a piece of software on every single system that's under the purview of Viking.
I was just going to say there has to be some benefits to not running an agent, whether it's time, whether it's cost, whether it's issues that are possible. The more you simplify
all of the above.
Things.
All of the above. You look at some of the attacks that have happened out there in the market in the past like 5 years. Some of them have actually been from network security products that have agents running, and someone compromises the centralized system and is then able to go in and enact malicious activity through the agents on every machine on the network.
Oh,
so I mean, like, you have something that's supposed to be protecting you and it turns into your attacker, right?
Ooh.
That's not great. So and it's not to say that all agents expose that vulnerability,
right?
But what is true is that the agents who have exposed that vulnerability caused quite the perception problem in the market.
Wow.
Right? You end up getting allergic reactions to the word agent these days, just because of people saying like, oh, well, everyone saw what happened with, I won't say names company. Everyone saw what happened with their agents, and I'm sure, don't know, very sarcastic, don't know who that was. Yeah, I'm just going to avoid saying names for the sake of being politically correct.
Yeah. I had my hand on the buzzer, so you're good.
Yeah. Nope. I know the rules. And so, but there's performance advantages too, right? There's modes of efficiency, there's security advantages. And then there's just policy advantage. It's much less friction to get something deployed into an environment that passively monitors things than it is trying to insert something that actually is responsible for passing traffic. And if you don't need to be in the role of passing and forwarding traffic, you shouldn't be doing it, right? And in our case, we don't have the need to. So we're out of band, we're out of path. And for now, we thankfully get to do what we do agent free.
Yeah, we actually have a 2-minute delay in case I need to buzz out anything that Nick says. We are good. We are safe, JB. We are safe. Thank you. Love that. Okay. And then I actually just have 2 more questions. The timing should be perfect. It's like we know what we're doing here. So I appreciate that. And
Almost.
this literally was next. So you mentioned NetFlow. And someone, we had talked, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago about NetFlow. And someone said, okay, and like, sounds great, but NetFlow has to miss stuff. There has to be some stuff that it doesn't see. How do you get around those gaps, assuming that there are?
This had to have been the same person. And
it was.
So how do you do stuff without agents and doesn't NetFlow miss stuff? It's like, I feel like I was being set up on this one.
Right.
Who let these questions through? There's NetFlow. So what people are referring to there is probably 2 things I would have to assume is NetFlow, as I kind of said a minute ago, exports metadata, and I kind of blew past it pretty quick. But what I mean by metadata is it tracks the data about the traffic, right? So just like metadata of a photo, it tells you where it was taken, at what exposure and aperture, all that good stuff like on your iPhone. Whenever you open up the more info part or the info part on a photo that you take, all of that is metadata. So the network has metadata, photo metadata for everything that passes through it, just like your camera on your phone does.
Okay.
So it knows the IP address of the source, the destination, what protocol they were using, what port they were communicating on, how much data was transferred. All of that stuff you can report to say, I saw this, and give it to somebody without actually handing them the traffic itself. So what's cool about that is it's very resource unintensive, right? It's very low resource utilization to do this. The metadata is great, right? Exactly right. So there's 2 things at play. Someone could be referring to. One, you're not actually in line with the data, so you can't see inside the packet to see what the data is, and they call that payload data. So we don't get to see the payload of the traffic. We don't get to see inside the envelope, right? It's like, perfect example is if you look at like those services, like you have the USPS informed delivery that you have, you know, for your like postal service.
Yep.
And the post office sends you an email with a list of to and from addresses and what kind of package it was, and tell you when it should arrive, right? That's a perfect example of metadata from the network. It doesn't tell you what's in the envelope. It doesn't give you a transcription of the letter. Right. Now, if you had a proxy office, right, or if you had like a virtual assistant somewhere and you had all of your mail sent there as a proxy, they opened all your mail, scanned it in for you, and you got your letters from this virtual office, virtual assistant. That would be like inline packet sniffing, packet capturing, right? Where you're seeing like the payload data of the network traffic. NetFlow is that passive informed delivery, right? It tells you, hey, I got 10 letters. Here's a list of who they're from and who they're going to. And here's the type. You got 4 envelopes and you got 6 boxes. You know, that's NetFlow data. And so people will criticize NetFlow and say, well, you can't see the payload of the data. Well, in our case, we don't actually care about the NetFlow. No, we don't care, because what we care about is who is talking to who and how. We don't care exactly what necessarily is inside the data that they're using to communicate. We have other parts of our system that pick that up. We have parts that look at the file system level and look all the way down into the actual bits and bytes of the file itself and correlate that with the network traffic that's moving across the network. So again, we don't need to have an agent. We don't need to be in path. We don't need the payload. We just need the telemetry data. We just need the meta data that's about it. So that's the part that's I think people would be referring to. The other piece I think would be little technical in the weeds detail of a sample rate, but we get around that issue by, instead of taking 1 out of 10 packets and forwarding it out, we just forward data about every packet that we see. And it's called using a sample rate of 0. And it says, don't pick and choose how many out of 10 to send us. Send us all 10. So we fix that problem by making sure we at least get as much net flow data as we can.
I love that. So it's like, yeah, we miss stuff intentionally. We don't need that. And so, yeah. And obviously, if you need to do less, you're going to be more effective at what you do. So,
way faster. And I'll just give you an example.
Yeah.
Just so you can see the scale and why these decisions are important.
Okay.
We have a development partner that we're working with and absorbing traffic into Viking. It's a fairly large environment, and we are getting from one sensor, from one piece of code, we're absorbing 75 to 84 million rows per hour of net flow data. And per hour. So we're about 80 million an hour coming in. And so if you look at 80 million records per hour, we have billions and billions of rows about this, and that's deduplicated data. And so it's an obscene amount of data to chew through, and any decision you make there can easily quadruple or 10x that amount of traffic real quick. And so you're talking the factor of billions when you make any decision. So efficiency is like top of mind. It's the number one priority.
That's crazy. Crazy. And then you start to be like, okay, yeah, we definitely have developed 90% of the world's history of data in the last 2 years. I get it. I see it.
Exactly right.
I see it. We need companies like Congruity more than ever. I get it. Okay.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly
if anything,
right.
Yeah, it's job security for Congruity. My goodness. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty crazy stuff.
And then last one, again, I love the little catch-ups with you because it's like, Nick, I'm like, what have you been up to? He's like, well, and then just tells me everything. And we have just over 3 minutes left here. So just kind of a rapid fire for some things that people can understand or be excited about. What are some things that you have been working on that would be in the Congruity world, the Congruity environment?
Oh man. So, I've gone down some rabbit holes lately. What I've been working on primarily right now is, feature sets on the backside of Viking that basically were, I like to focus on the network, the transit, the security side of Viking. So the traffic we just talked about and absorbing things and watching and observing, that's definitely the world I like to focus on. So what we've been working on for the past couple of weeks, really heavy since last week, actually, since the last time we had a stream, has been around the efficiency to collect that data and get it into a central location for processing in the customer's environment. So it's so much data to move, figuring out how to not lose anything while you're getting it from point A to point B, not queuing things up and making a big backlog of stuff you have to send, while at the same time not saturating the links of that you have available to you to get stuff from point A to point B. So it's been a lot of traffic engineering and ingestion, type data science work that I guess I've been kind of focused on. But if you look at what around that I've been doing, this has caused lots more partner work. It's caused a lot more of collaboration between a lot of different groups, both inside Congruity and in the partner world and in the customer space are surrounding Congruity. And so I've had to do a lot more coordination than I'm used to doing myself.
Okay.
So I've been testing out some new calendaring tools and testing out some new, again, email client workflow type stuff. Outlook is getting to the point where it's just, it's a bear when you're dealing with so many different organizations and so many different teams, groups that you have to have, it's been a challenge. So I've been looking for things that kind of work universally across. So I've been looking at like the superhuman email clients and like the Spark email clients and the stuff that's kind of made for more team coordination, collaboration type calendaring and categorization of stuff. So it's been a lot of, doing a lot of neat stuff across multiple teams, but then trying to develop my tools personally that help me, I guess, deal with more teams and more people and more schedules more effectively.
Super cool. And that was one of your alerts there. They're like, you need to wrap it up. You got a new meeting coming. Stay on task.
You know, and that's, yeah, exactly. That was my little AI assistant saying if it wanted me to record my next meeting or not.
Jeez. And Kenny, we actually touched on this last week, I think it was, with the data centers. Yeah, it was last week. We don't have time today, but I'm sure we'll have a Q&A session where we'll be able to go into detail. But it was towards the end of the show last week, if you want to check that one out, Kenny. All right, guys, thank you, number one, for submitting your questions from within Congruity and then also just viewers that were interested. Thank you, Nick, for being an open book. That's what this show is all about. We don't want the just little PowerPoint and pre-rehearsed bullet points. We just want to talk. We want to talk about what's going on with Congruity. We want to talk about what's going on in this entire data management space. And I think that this was exactly what people want to hear and see. So if I could, on my way out, you guys, I would one more time like to invite you to go follow the Instagram page of Congruity. I would love for you to look at our shorts on YouTube, check out the LinkedIn page. If you're not on LinkedIn, go connect with Congruity on there. And then outside of that, we'll be back right here, same place, same time next week. Absolutely love having this platform to be able to spend an hour with you guys. Nick, any final words for our Congruity friends?
No, I mean, this was great. Thanks for the questions. And this was great. I mean, we you know, it's interesting when you have a longer list than you do have time to get through with an audience the size that we have here. So this is fantastic. Keep the questions coming. It's what fuels this stuff. It makes it a lot of fun. So thanks for the questions, and we'll see you again next week. Keep them coming.
See you guys next week. And also, I did have to scrap some questions because Nick said they're not ready for it yet. So stay tuned. Coming soon, you guys. We'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.